The desert has a way of swallowing sound, as if every cry and whisper is taken into the red earth and never given back. That night, the sky above stretched endless and sharp, full of stars that mocked me with their cold indifference. I rode alone, my horse lathered with sweat, the stink of dust and grief heavy on my skin. Red Mesa Ranch was gone burned to the ground just 2 weeks prior. The flames had devoured my father's legacy, the barns he built with his bare hands, the fences I mended every spring, the only place that ever felt like home. I could still hear the crackle of timber collapsing, smell the oily temps of kerosene in the wind. That wasn't an accident, not the way it spread, not the way it burned too hot to fight. Someone had meant for it to end that way. And now every mile I rode was fueled by anger as dry as the desert air. It was on that ride, in the teeth of a dust storm, that I found her. The wind howled low, carrying grit that stung my eyes and stripped the world of color. Through the shifting haze, I caught sight of a dark shape slumped beside the carcass of a horse. At first I thought it might be another drifter too stubborn to survive the desert. But when I drew closer, the sight stopped me cold. She wore a white habit torn at the shoulder, fabric dirty with sand, her veil half tangled in her dark hair. A rosary glimmered faintly at her side, beads scattered across the ground like black pearls spilled from a broken string. She was kneeling, but not in prayer, more like she'd been caught halfway between collapse and defiance. Her face, pale in the moonlight, turned up as I reined in my horse. I thought God had sent me an angel. I muttered without meaning to. The words lost to the wind. Her eyes opened, dark and luminous, sharp enough to cut through the storm. And in that moment, I knew there was nothing angelic about her. Something coiled there, some knowledge that made me uneasy. "You're hurt?" I asked, swinging down from the saddle. She shook her head, lips curving into the faintest smile. "I am not the one in need of saving, Senor." Her accent rolled gentle, Spanish lilted through each word. "But I thank you for stopping." The way she said it sounded rehearsed, like a line delivered too often. Her voice didn't match her condition, either steady, rich, not cracked with thirst or weariness. "You out here alone?" I pressed. "My name is Sister Isabel Vega," she said smoothly. "From the mission of Santa Celestina." Santa Celestina. My chest tightened. I'd passed through that mission 3 months ago delivering supplies. Folks there whispered of an Isabel Vega, too willful for the veil, who had died sudden in an outbreak of fever. Dead, they'd said. Dead and buried. And yet here she was, kneeling in the sand with eyes that studied me as though she'd been waiting. I crouched near the body of her horse, side charred black. "What happened?" "A rider cannot fight a storm," she answered, though her gaze never left my face. But the horse hadn't died from sand or wind. It reeked faintly of smoke. I touched its flank and my fingers came away smeared with soot. Before I could press further, my hand brushed against something in my own saddlebag. A letter I did not remember placing there. My heart stuttered as I pulled it free. The parchment was damp with sweat, the ink smudged from the desert's heat. Written across the front, in a hand I didn't know, was her name, Isabel Vega. I opened it with clumsy fingers. Inside, the words struck me like bullets. Red Mesa Ranch, destroyed by fire. Owners displaced. Suspects remain unknown. No one should have known details like that except me and maybe 2 others still alive in the territory. I looked up sharply. Isabel's eyes glowed in the shifting firelight I'd kindled moments earlier, and for the briefest instant, I swore she knew exactly what I was holding. "How do you know my name?" she asked softly. The letter slipped in my grasp. "Funny," I said hoarsely. "I was about to ask you the same." Her smile deepened, though it wasn't kind. "Word travels fast about men who lose everything to fire." My jaw clenched. I wanted to demand answers, to drag the truth from her right there, but the desert wasn't silent anymore. Beneath the howl of the wind came another sound, low, rhythmic, dangerous. The beat of hooves approaching. I stiffened. She didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head, listening with uncanny calm. "For riders," she murmured. "They have been following you since sundown. How the hell would you? Because they were sent for you." "Jack Callahan." Her eyes gleamed as she spoke my name like a secret already known. The weight of the rifle at my side suddenly felt heavier. I hadn't told her who I was, yet here she stood, unafraid. Speaking the truth like she'd plucked it from my soul. The hoofbeats drew closer, joined by harsh voices carried on the wind. I caught fragments. My name. The promise of gold. A bounty dot. Isabel reached into the folds of her tattered habit. For a heartbeat, I thought she meant to pray. Instead, she drew out a Colt revolver, its barrel polished, its pearl handle gleaming pale. The sight of it stole my breath. "Stay close," she whispered, stepping beside me with a grace none ever learned. "When I move, you take the one on the left. You expect me to trust you?" Her smile flashed white in the dark. "You have no choice." The riders came into view then, shadows on horseback against the swirl of dust, eyes glittering with hunger for money and blood. One raised a hand, signaling the others to spread wide. "Callahan," the leader barked. "We know you're here. Make it easy, boy. Step out, and maybe we won't gut your friend." My grip tightened on the Winchester. Friend, they thought she was with me. Maybe she was. Maybe she wasn't. Isabel laid a hand against my arm, steady and deliberate. "Remember," she breathed the left. Her scent something floral. Impossibly out of place in the desert slid into my lungs, weakening my resolve. No woman should smell like that out here. No woman should know my name or carry a revolver hidden in a nun's robe. And yet, when the first gun cleared leather, she was already moving. She stepped forward, hands raised in mock surrender. "Please, gentlemen," she called, voice honey smooth. "I am but a sister of mercy. This man only offered me shelter." The leader smirked, lowering his weapon an inch. Exactly what she wanted. Her Colt flashed like lightning. One shot straight through his chest. He toppled backward, dead before he hit the ground. I didn't hesitate. My Winchester barked, and the rider on the left fell screaming, his horse bolting into the storm. The other two panicked. One spun to flee, but Isabel's second bullet caught him in the back. The last tried to aim at her. But I put him down before he drew breath. The silence afterward was deafening. Broken only by the hiss of sand across stone, I stared at her, my pulse roaring. She hadn't hesitated, hadn't prayed, hadn't flinched. That was no nun. That was something else entirely. "You're no sister," I rasped. Isabel knelt by the dead leader, plucking a folded slip of paper from his coat. She handed it to me without a word. My blood iced when I read it. Target confirmed alive. Eliminate immediately. Proof required. No witnesses. Signed, Jeremiah Blackwell. The same man I suspected had ordered the fire at Red Mesa Ranch. The same bastard owned half the banks from here to Santa Fe. Isabel met my eyes. "They will not stop, Jack. And if you ride on alone, you will not live to see the next town." I swallowed hard, staring at the bodies sprawled in the sand. For men dead because of me or because of her. "Then tell me," I said, his voice rough with anger and something else I couldn't name. "Who the hell are you really?" Her answer came like a blade drawn in the moonlight. "Someone who has been waiting for you." The desert was quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the heavy, watchful kind of silence that follows gunfire. When every nerve still hums, and you half expect death to come back for one more sweep. I stood there among the bodies and the smell of powder, my hands still tight around the Winchester. The stars above seemed sharper now, cold pricks of light over a land that didn't care what lives it swallowed. Isabel, Svigif, that was even her name, stood a few paces away, lowering her Colt with the easy grace of someone who'd drawn and fired 1,000 times before. Her white habit hung ragged, smoke darkened at the hem. She didn't look like a nun. She looked like a promise and a warning stitched into the same skin. She turned those dark eyes on me. "They'll send more." Her voice was low, certain, not frightened. She holstered the gun beneath the folds of her robe like she was sliding a knife back into a sheath. "We can't stay here." I swallowed against the dryness in my throat and forced words out. "You said you were waiting for me? Why?" Because you've lost what they took from me. She started gathering scattered shells and rosary beads, hand steady, purposeful. And because you'll fight, I might just ride the other way. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Isabel's gaze met mine, unreadable and steady. You won't. Something in her certainty rattled me more than the fight. Had we covered the bodies with sand and scrub brush, quick and dirty work, coyotes would find them by morning, but it might buy us hours before someone stumbled onto the scene. My shoulder ached from the recoil, but it was my heart that thudded wild, refusing to settle. She worked beside me without wasted motion. There was no tremor in her hands, no sign of shock. Only once, when she bent to pick up the rosary beads, did her fingers still. For a heartbeat, her face changed, something soft. Something breaking, but it was gone before I could be sure. When we finished, she strode to my horse like she belonged there. We ride. I hesitated. Where? South. There's an old mining camp near the dry river. Good cover water if we're lucky. She glanced at me. You know the place? I did. I'd hidden there as a kid when the world got to mean. Yeah, then lead. The ride was long and silent. The wind eased, but left behind a cool night that cut through my sweat. I could feel her behind me, though we rode separate horses now. Her presence pressed close, a quiet weight on the darkness. I tried not to think about how she'd looked firing into the storm, veil whipping back, eyes bright and alive, or how she'd said my name like it belonged to her. By the time we reached the mine, moonlight was pooling silver over the land. We made camp inside the crumbling office shack, broken walls, half a roof, but enough to keep us hidden. I coaxed a small fire to life, careful with the smoke. Isabel peeled off the ruined habit, revealing a plain dark shirt and trousers beneath men's cut, fitted to her lean frame. She moved like someone used to fighting, but there was weariness now too. The kind that comes after you've killed and kept breathing anyway. I looked away out of some half-formed courtesy, then back, because I couldn't help myself. She caught me. A flicker of a smile ghosted across her face. Curious? Suspicious. That's fair. She lowered herself near the fire. My father built bridges. Men like Jeremiah Blackwell burned them along with him when he wouldn't sell the survey maps that proved who owned which land. He died for honesty. The men who did it buried the evidence deep. I was supposed to die too. The words came flat, but not cold. They carried the weight of having been told too many times. You disappeared, I said. I became Sister Isabel long enough to vanish. A shrug. The world doesn't look for dead nuns. I tried to picture her quiet behind convent walls. Couldn't? And now? Now, I collect the pieces they missed. Her gaze cut to me, sharp again. That fire on your ranch wasn't random. It's the same game. Force you out? Buy for pennies. Control the water and the cattle. You're not the first. You're just the latest. I stared into the flames, jaw tight. You came out here tonight hoping to find me? Hoping you'd survive long enough to be useful, she said bluntly. Then, softer, hoping someone else still cared enough to fight. For a moment, we just sat there. Two ghosts of things we'd lost. The fire popped. Outside, something small skittered over rocks. My hand twitched toward the rifle before I caught myself. You fight like you've got nothing left to lose, I said finally. Isabel's eyes glinted in the firelight. And you ride like you want something back. The words sank deep, somewhere painful and necessary. I should have kept distance. Should have seen she was dangerous in ways I couldn't name. But grief does strange things. So does loneliness. We ate in silence, jerky, and a can of beans I'd strapped behind the saddle. She ate sparingly, polite, though I noticed the way her hands trembled just once when she thought I wasn't looking. Killing takes something, no matter how skilled you are. Later, when the fire was dying, she spoke again. They will come for you. For us now, I figured, tomorrow, we ride into Ash Hollow. There's a man their old marshal named Clyde Rafferty. Dirty but useful. He has a ledger. Names, payments, land deeds. If we get it, we can make Blackwell bleed. Marshal Rafferty hates me, I said. Said my father owed taxes we didn't. Her smile was quick and razor-thin. "Then you know him. Won't hand us anything, no," she agreed. "But maybe he'll sell it." I should have said no. But revenge was a language I'd grown fluent in. "Fine," I said. Her gaze held mine. Long and steady, and there was something there, approval maybe, or warning. Hard to tell with her. When we finally lay down, I stayed awake a long time listening to the night. Isabel slept light, one hand near her gun. I couldn't stop watching the way her face softened in rest, like the hard edges could smooth if she let them. And God help me, I wanted to touch her. Not because of the danger, but because beneath everything sharp, there was something broken that looked a lot like me. We reached Ash Hollow by midday, heat shimmering off the hard-packed street. The town hadn't changed. Crooked signs, whiskey stink, a saloon piano jangling out of tune. Folks looked up when we rode in. I felt their stares, whispers curling behind hands. Word had gotten out about Red Mesa, about me. Isabel kept her chin high, face shadowed under her hat now. Not a nun anymore. Not to these people. Just another stranger with a gun. We tied up outside Rafferty's office. The place sagged like the man inside Clyde Rafferty was old law gone bad, gray stubble and whiskey breath. His eyes narrowed when he saw me. "Well, well. Thought you'd be 6 feet under? Sorry to disappoint." His gaze slid to Isabel and lingered a beat too long. "Friend of yours?" "She's with me." "That so?" He leaned back, chair creaking. "What do you want?" Isabel didn't waste time. "Your ledger." He barked a laugh. "Girl, you think you can stroll in here?" And her Colt was in her hand before he finished. Not raised, just there, quiet and heavy on his desk. "You sell names every day, Marshal," she said softly. "Sell them to us." His smirk faltered. He looked at me, saw something in my face that stopped the protest forming on his lips. Money changed hands more than I liked, but worth it. He slid the ledger over, eyes wary. "You didn't get this from me." "We didn't," Isabel said, tucking it under her arm. We turned to go, but he called after us. "Careful, Callahan." "Blackwell's not a man to half-kill." I didn't answer. There was no half about what I meant to do. That night, we camped near a dry wash, ledger open between us. Names, payments, deeds proof of theft, dressed up as business. My father's name wasn't there, but plenty of neighbors were. Men bullied off their land, some dead under mysterious accidents. Each page made my throat tighter. Isabel watched me, silent until I slammed it shut. "You okay?" she asked. "No. You have to be." Her bluntness stung. "Easy for you, no?" Her voice cut sharp. "Not easy. Necessary." I looked up then, anger sparking, and stopped. There was no challenge in her eyes, just understanding so deep it scared me. "You can't rebuild if all you hold is rage," she said quietly. Believe me, her words slid under my ribs and stayed. For a while, we just sat in the quiet, ledger between us like a map of old wounds. Then she reached out, tentative, laid her hand over mine. I didn't pull away. It was nothing a touch, warm and small, but it felt like a door opening somewhere, long locked. "Why help me?" I asked, voice rough. Her eyes met mine. Because once, I was alone too. Something shifted between us, subtle and unstoppable. The night pressed close, stars wheeling silent overhead. I wanted to say more, to ask who she'd been before the guns, before the lies. But the wind shifted and carried a sound that froze us both, distant hoofbeats. Fast, we moved as one, snuffing the fire, grabbing rifles. I caught her hand for just a second, impulse and warning tangled together. She squeezed back once. Then we were shadows slipping into the rocks. Lantern light flared below, men riding hard, searching. Not bounty hunters this time, too disciplined. Hired guns from Blackwell, maybe Marks. 6 of them. We crouched breathless while they scoured our camp. My pulse hammered in my ears. Isabel was so close I could feel her breath against my cheek, smell the faint ghost of lavender even after days in the wild. One rider dismounted, poked through our ashes, cursed softly. Another said they were here. We'll find him. The first spat. Boss wants him alive. Alive didn't mean safe. They finally moved on. Fading into the dark, we stayed still a long time after, until my legs went numb and the only sound was our own breathing. Then Isabel exhaled. Shaky for the first time since I'd met her, I touched her shoulder, just lightly. She didn't flinch. We'll make it, I said. She looked at me, moonlight catching the edge of a smile, sad and fierce. We have to. Something in me broke, then not in pain but in release. For the first time since Red Mesa turned to ash, I wasn't alone with the fight. We didn't sleep. Dawn found us moving again, further south, deeper into country I barely knew. Our path was long, dangerous, but different, now less like running, or like building something from broken pieces. I couldn't name what tethered me to her beyond vengeance. Maybe survival. Maybe the pull of another soul as lost and stubborn as mine. But as the sun climbed over the desert, catching in her dark hair and turning it to fire, I thought of the question she might ask me one day. When all this was done, cowboy, do you dread me or desire me? And I didn't have an answer yet. Only the sure knowledge that, whichever it was, I wasn't ready to let go.